So welcome to the February 2021 40-minute Guru session on using Vector to create an avatar for student accounts and how to use Vector tools to create simple graphics and why you should do. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to take you through a little presentation and then I'll take you to the tool and we'll have a look at how that works. So let's have a look at this. First of all, caution. So why should students learn how to use a vector graphics tool and use or learn to create their own graphics using any of the tools online, and in this case, this particular one called Vector? With the new digital technologies curriculum, the Designing and Developing Digital Outcomes Progress Outcome Indicator 3 talks about students design, develop, store, test and evaluate digital content, and to take into account, and this is the crucial bit here, take into account the immediate social, ethical and end user considerations. And implicit in that is that we can't publish anything online really ethically that doesn't belong to us. So even though this is PO3 and this is the end of year 10, implicit in that is that right from the get-go, students should be encouraged to create, where possible, their own content. So every time they pick up a camera or they want to use a photograph or something, they should be doing that. And they should be using the tools available to them to create their own digital content and not just going to the internet and grabbing something that looks just about right and making do with that. Because of the digital citizenship implications with that. So this is why I would encourage you to start thinking about introducing a requirement for your students to create their own digital content in terms of photographs, and in this case, their own graphics that they might be using for any of the illustrations that they're doing. So creating their own avatar using Vector is a good way to start. So what is a vector graphic? Why is that different? And what's the importance of vectors? Well, vectors graphics are graphics that are designed to a mathematical formula, and raster graphics or bitmaps, PNGs, JPEGs that you're probably more used to are actually just images created from the pixel resolution on the screen. So, to excuse the jargon, they're also known as lossy. Every time you open up a JPEG and edit it and change it again, you lose quality. Whereas a vector graphic, if it's kept in its original format, PDF or SVGs, you can scale it to as big as you like. SVG basically means scalable vector graphic. And so it's not made up of dots, it's made up of mathematical curves that are, you know, a circle can be scalable infinitely without losing any resolution. Whereas raster images are made up from the pixels on your screen, which is why you can get, if you stretch them too big, they look really blocky. You're using the wrong resolution image for the magnification that you want to use. And this is an original image from the internet, so I haven't scaled this up in any way at all. This is straight from the internet. And of course, what I've done is I utterly failed my PO3 requirements because I've taken this without any credit, but I wanted you to see the difference between vector and raster content. So why start with vector? Why use vector? Vector is a simple online vector graphics tool that has a limited palette of tools, but the skills learned in vector once and the techniques and tools that are used are broadly similar to the other tools that you can use online. So there's a definite progression of activities that you can do. So once you've mastered vector and you've exhausted its limited capability, which makes it ideal to get students started with this of any age, but particularly kia ora, Tara, you've joined us.
Kia ora.
Okay, welcome. I'm just started on the slide. You'll catch up with us when I do the video, but I'm explaining here why what the progression of activities are. So basically, just to recap, Vector is a vector graphics tool that allows us to integrate the skills of creating graphics with a vector graphics program as part of a continuum of tools that students can be exposed to. So Vector is the simplest of the tools that I found so far. And then once the students have mastered the online capability of Vector, we can move to designer.gravit, which is a lot more sophisticated and a lot more complicated. but not as complex as the other kind of industry standards like Adobe Illustrator. However, the tools and the palette of tools and the kind of options and layering, all that kind of stuff that can be done in designer.gravit.io are the a good enough foundation for most students to be able to create really high quality vector graphics programs before they decided to sort of specialize in using tools like Adobe Illustrator. And of course, for schools, having 2 free high quality vector graphics tools available to them before they decide to invest in something like the industry standard Adobe Illustrator is a good option. There are also other options like Inkscape, which I've been using for a very long time. It's open source software. It's free, but it only works in Linux, Windows, and Mac. So if you've got a Chromebook or you're working on Chromebooks, Gravit would work really well in most cases. So so vector is part of a continuum. It's the start of a journey for you guys. So what we're trying to create today is faces like this. Now, these faces look really daunting, but they've been made with a circle and a square repeated several times and using copy and paste. And now these are skills that students can acquire very quickly. And it's also a good computational thinking strategy because you've got to think about layers, what seems to be behind something else, and also introducing some really simple tools that the students can master. So this is why I thought we'd start with an avatar the kids could make that is that reflects their personality, and then we can sort of take it from there. So let's get on to the tool. When you go to Vector, the web address is vector.com. And you can use it online. So if you see the highlighted red box in the middle of the page there that says use online, the students can create a quick graphic without having to log in, but they can't save it. However, if they log in and they log in with their Google account, they can create, save, come back to and edit their work online and then download it later. So it's a very, very simple tool to use, and very simple and very easy to access. So once you've clicked use online or clicked log in, the first time you do so, it tries to take you through a tutorial. And sometimes the students click on get started and they get locked into this kind of tutorial cycle. So I would encourage you to click skip. So we'll leave the presentation there for the moment and we will jump to my tab here. So this is the vector environment in which you can create your content. And the first thing we need to look through first of all is that on the pages tab here on the left-hand side of the page, and at the bottom it tells you the size of the artboard you're working with. So by default it's 640 by 640 pixels, and you can change that to any size you like. We can zoom in and out of this a little bit. But what you do need to know is that the grey line that we see here is the artboard, and anything that the students download to save to use for later needs to be inside that grey boundary. Anything outside of that is not going to be seen. Whoops, let's go forward again. Oops. Hot hands here. What I was going to show you is what a good, when you create a shape, I'm going to create a square shape here. It's bright and full colored, and sometimes the children say they can't find their work. And just as an illustration, if you look at this bright full colored square here, if it's outside the artboard, note what happens. It becomes slightly opaque. So as soon as the children start complaining about the color is not right, it's not the color I want, it's the clue that they're actually outside the artboard. So what we're going to do is make sure that, they stay inside the artboard. So we'll just delete that. So over here, we've got some other tools here, which we'll look at a bit later. But down the side here, we've got these other tools, this tool palette here. And as we click on each one of these tools, the palette box over here opens up with some new tools that we can use. So first of all, let's start off with what we're going to do. We're going to start creating our face. And we're going to create our face using a square and a circle. It's as simple as that. So I'm just going to take some time to go through this. So first of all, we're going to create a rectangle, and we're just going to create a kind of a rectangular face like this. And the first thing we're going to do, you see over on the right hand side, the right hand side here, we've got a whole bunch of options here. And the first thing we're going to do is use the color picker. And the most difficult thing to use is the skin tone. So it's kind of a boundary between over here somewhere. It's really, I find the skin tone part really difficult to do. I'm going to stick to about there, I think. And so there is my skin tone color. And I guess because it's a cartoon, it doesn't really matter. But some of the students can get quite, let's just tweak it a bit more, I think. Quite concerned that it's not the exact color they want. It's kind of, oh, stop fiddling. But you use the slider and that'll do, leave it there. So when you select an object, you get the blue line around the outside of it, and you get the standard 8 grab handles that allows you to move it in scale. But in Vector, if you double tap, you get 8 points again, but the mid points are missing. So what we're going to do here is we can look at these inside ones. So if you double tap, if you grab the outside ones, you can actually reform the shape entirely. Now we don't want to do that. We want to use the inside ones, and these will create a smooth curve. These will create a smooth curve. So I'm going to just drag this like this. And so now I'm making this rounded shape. So this is going to form the shape of our head. So here's our, if you like, for want of a better word, Mr. Potato Head. Let's just try and even those up so that the curves are the same size. We can move these. So that'll do us. So, right, so there's our head. There's our simple head. And we are now going to copy this, and we're going to make a neck. So I'm just going to use this shape, and I'm just going to squeeze it in. So I'm just using that same shape, and we can double tap on this and make these less extreme if we want to. Just pull these out. So I'll make these less extreme. That'll do. This one, less extreme. And we can use the alignment tools like this to make our neck. Now we want the neck to be the same color, but we want to move it backwards, and we'll put a shadow in this in a moment. So I'm going to center back, so it's now behind. But now it just looks like a lollipop stick. So we need to put a shadow here, and this is when we need to start using the first of our tricks to start cutting things out. So I want to copy this, and I want to make a copy of this and line them up. And I want to use these two shapes here. I just move these out of the way. I'm going to use these two shapes, make sure this one's at the back. And I'm going to highlight both of them now. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new shape by combining these two together. So you can see what I want to actually make is a shape that has the chin line here. So we've got some options here. We can unite or add, or we can subtract, or we can intersect, or we can exclude on those objects. We want to use the intersect option here. I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to make this a slightly darker color. So can you come up to here, and I'm just going to choose a slightly darker color in the palette picker here, and then I'm going to slide this across to here and put this underneath and use the center back function. And now it looks like we've got a shadow of my chin on my neck. So now we've got this object. So now let's make some ears. And we're going to make some ears, and we're going to just make some ears, that'll do, a circle. We want to make it the same color as the skin tone here. So I'm going to click on the color palette again, and this time click on the eyedropper and select the color I want it to copy. So I've now got that. I'm going to duplicate this. So again, we've made a square and a circle. I'm just copying things. I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to make it slightly pinker. So let's come up slightly. Here will do, that's good. Put that in the middle, it's too big. Make it a bit smaller. This is lots of fiddling around. And you can use the alignment tools to make sure it's in the center. That'll do us. Might make that just a little bit more contrast on that pink. That's a bit better. And now I'm going to highlight these two and I'm going to group them. So that's a right click and group. And I'm going to duplicate that. So Command C, Command V. So I've got two ears now, and I'm going to put that on the side of the head like this, and put that on the side of the head like this. That doesn't look like ears at all. So we're now going to use the center back function just by selecting on the object, send it to the back, click on here and center back. And so now we're beginning to get the makings of our head. So now we need to start thinking about eyes. So this is where you can have lots of fun with eyes. Make another circle, and I'm going to just make a very simple eye. We're going to click on this, make it white, and we'll copy that, and we can make it much smaller for the pupils and give it a color if we want to make it blue, blue eyes possibly. That'll do. Those eyes are pretty big. And now we can group that. So right click and group, and we can duplicate. These eyes are pretty big, but your eyes, yes, about there. And so now our character is beginning to get some eyes here. And now let's make a nose and some eyebrows. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool again. I'm going to choose the color picker, and I'm going to choose this color, I think. My nose, a bit of double tap on this, use the rounding function here just to make this a rounded rectangle. That's probably way too big, so we can just scale that down. Feel like I need to make that nose a bit longer. In fact, what I might do is I might move the ears down a little bit so they're in line, and move all of these down a little bit. That's looking better. And so let's give our guy some eyebrows. So we can copy this, and down over here, right in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got a rotation tool here. So we can add some maths in, tell it to turn it through 90 degrees, and we can make this, we choose our hair color now. So let's make it black, and we can make this smaller. And I want two of those. And so now the students can start playing with expressions. So let's make this guy a bit surprised. There we go. So now we've got the makings of our head. So we're starting to go along here, and we can make things like glasses. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. I think we've got time. Yes, we've got a few minutes. And the most complex thing to do is to make the mouth. And we're going to use that same cutting technique that we had before. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a circle and just make a circle of any size, really. Make a nice, big, cheesy expression. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this circle. We could do it two ways. I'll do it. Let's do it this way. I'm going to make it this way. I'm going to make a mouth like this. And instead of, I'm going to make it with a rectangle and double tapping. And I'm just going to pull the bottom part in like this. So we've got a nice, big, open, happy mouth. So this is going to be the mouth, a big over smiling mouth here. What we're going to do is make this a dark red on the inside. So let's just choose a red. This is the inside of his mouth. That might be a bit better. And then what we're going to do is we'll make a copy of that because we'll use that in a moment. I'm going to make some teeth. So we're going to just add a white block and make it fit in here like this. Might make the teeth a little bit bigger. That'll do. And make that white. Not looking like a mouth at the moment, but now what we're going to do is we're going to use this block here to make a tongue. So we're going to use that intersect trick again. So I'm going to make a tongue like this. Choose a different color. Doesn't matter what color we choose. Sometimes it does. Let's choose a brighter red here. So this is the color of our tongue. This is going to be the intersect. So I want to choose that to be just a color so I can switch the color so I can see. And this shape here will be the shape of our tongue. So we can pull this around to think about what kind of a shape of a tongue do we want and how much into the mouth do we want to see it. I think that'll do. So I'm going to highlight those two. And again, using these options here, using the intersect option, yes, that's what I want. So it's cut out the tongue on the top arc of the circle and the bottom half of the rounded rectangle. And I can put that into here like this. And now that looks like his tongue inside his mouth. We can group that. So right click on here and group and put this into here. And now we've got a smiley face. So all we need to do now is put a wig on the guy. So we can do all kinds of things with hair. The first thing you can do is just grab circles and make them black. And you can just put all kinds of circles on here. So let's just put a bunch of circles on this is his hair. And it looks like just any way that you want to do it. It just looks like nice curly hair. So let's just do this. Let's just do this one over here like that. So, that looks like a guy. So what we can do now is let's just drag this over to here. And we'll just drag this one over to here like this. And now let's turn that same, we've made that into a guy. Let's make this a slightly different now. So let's look at this and let's do some things like this. Can we change this? Yeah, so let's delete these. So let's do a circle here like this. Okay. Drag this across into here like this. Again, you're just fiddling all the time, really. Will this work? No, I think I'll make that into a circle. Stretch this a bit. Okay, so now we can add other bits and pieces. Let's just do this a bit more. And so all I'm doing is just making lots of square circles, rounded rectangles here. Do another one. Make that red. Put that here. We can scale this, I think. Group. And so what I've done now is starting to make some, we can use this, send this back to the background. There you go. In front of the ear, possibly. Copy that. There we go. And so we've made two, I think I want to snap back a bit more. I think that's better. So we've made two hairdos from one face. And so once that's been created and you're happy with that, the students can name it if they're logged in. So we'll just call this vector 40-minute. Okay, save file name. And then this button here allows us to export it. Now, if we want to use this in programs like Google Docs, you need to export it as a PNG. So we click on PNG and we can download it. And it will download into your Chromebooks as a download file, and you can just use it, and then it's off the website. So if we come back to here now, where did I get to? Come back to present. We can go on. So we've done that now, but can you see here's an example of an image that I put in far too, and moved it, zoomed it up far too big, and it's begun to pixelate, but that tells us it's JPEG, and that's when you get those kind of grainy lines around the outside because it's the pixels are being stretched. So just to let you know that if you go to my YouTube channel, I've made 5 how-to tutorials for students on how to use Vector as a playlist, and you can use that. And you can also see over here, there's a Grab It tutorial that you can use. And in those playlists on Vector, it's got broken down what you can do, and all those skills and tools that I've talked about and shown and illustrated today are broken down into a much more slow-paced, if you like, and comprehensive resource.